Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Science Fictionary Podcast. I'm Andrew here tonight, as always, with Marisha.
Yeah.
And we've got a special guest from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast joining us tonight, Ro, one of our very favorite guests to have on here.
Yay.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always good to have you. So we're going to talk about, I almost said season 4, but episode 4 of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
In which things got a little weird. What's going on, Joker Voice, there in the chat? Thank you for joining us tonight.
Just now got a little weird. I mean, didn't we kind of start out a little weird?
It became a different kind of weird.
It got a little weirder.
Yeah, like it went from like kind of magical, stuff to just being a little weird and trippy. It kind of reminded me of
Legion a little bit.
Legion, yeah.
The first season of Legion, anyway.
I never watched anything beyond the first season, but the first season of Legion. Did you ever watch Legion, Ro?
No.
So it was kind of this thing where it was just trippy, and you never could figure out what was real and what wasn't. Where the guy has mental issues, and he's constantly going in and out, and he's not the main character is unaware of what's real and what's not. And so you're just along for the ride. And that's kind of, I think, kind of where I felt like we were at the end of this is, I kind of agree with you, Joker. I gave it a season, and there are some really good episodes later in season 1, but Daniel was not giving a super glowing review of season 2. And if Daniel,
I watched it all the way to the end.
If Daniel wasn't liking it, I was skeptical.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I may have mostly watched because Dan Stevens was in it. And I really like Downton Abbey.
Well, the Hectolorian just joined us in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
I'll have to check out Legion. I've not seen it, so
it's weird.
It's interesting. It's a really interesting concept. I feel like sometimes it hits real well and sometimes it misses completely, but
sure. I like weird.
Yeah. If you like weird, you'll at least enjoy episodes of it.
Cool. Excellent.
Let's see. So overall, we haven't talked to you yet about this show.
Yeah.
So up to this episode, how have you felt? What have you enjoyed or not liked about the show so far?
Moon Knight is one of those characters that I'm not super familiar with. I know he popped up in certain Marvel titles. I've seen him in, some old Spider-Man, some X-Men, whatever. But I wasn't really too familiar with the character like back in the day. When they announced that they were working on a Moon Knight show, I thought it was cool. Obviously I know of him. I know what he looks like. I kind of know a little bit of the premise. But I got to tell you, man, I know Joker Voice is gonna cancel me, but I'm loving this. It's interesting enough to me that it keeps, I keep coming back to it. It's trippy. It's there's still a lot of questions that are out there, and not knowing a lot about the character, I'm still like, I'm chomping at the bit to find out what's going on, especially this last episode. But I'm really enjoying it overall. It's Oscar Isaac's performances are amazing. He turns on a dime with the two characters that he's portraying.
Yeah.
And I find his acting just it's awesome. I like the look, and I know you and I we all talked about the look of the Book of Boba Fett and some of the other shows that are on the Disney streaming platform, especially for Star Wars. This definitely has that that big picture look and feel.
Right.
And I'm very happy about it. I know the volume is there to kind of save money, but sometimes you got to go out on location and shoot, and I think they're doing that here, or at least they're at least they're fooling us.
Yeah, they're doing some. They're definitely doing some location shooting, and that's actually. I know you're really excited about Andor, as are we, and that's one of the things I'm excited about that show. Other than just continuing that story, is I know they built that huge set just
Right.
for that show,
Little city or town or whatever.
yeah, and that's going to make that so much more fun with the more real effects in fact, I would love to see. I kind of wonder if some of that is where they shot some of the Boba Fett stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be. Redress it a little bit, put some Vespas in there somewhere.
Yeah, some space
Those
Vespas,
Vespas, yeah.
Scooty Puff Jr. But no, I'm really enjoying the show. I'm kind of with you. I'm liking a lot of things. There's been a couple of little things that, like last week we talked about, like where they have to rewind the sky to get back to what the sky looked like on that
Right.
night, and it was like Marisha was like, aren't there apps that do that?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Isn't there? Yeah. Exactly.
Pretty sure there's an app, like a night sky app, that you
Right.
can put in a date for any. Yeah.
And it'll do that for you.
Yes, you don't have to get imprisoned in stone.
Yeah.
So this is actually an interesting question that I wanted to bring up that Joker Voice has asked here. So we're 4 episodes in, and we've actually seen very little of Moon Knight himself.
Sure.
I mean, so far, honestly, the first Thor movie, whether you loved it or hated it, we really didn't see Thor in action until like Thor as Thor until like the last 15 minutes. So I guess it's kind of, I understand why we have to introduce these personalities, but how do y'all feel about this? I don't feel like we could go that much further without bringing the powers back. Like when we get down to the finale, we have to see a lot more Moon Knight, right?
Yeah, I think that the beginning of the next episode, or at least early in the next episode, I think we get powers back, because it's just we've only got 2 more episodes left, right?
Just 2.
So I don't think we can drag out 2/3 of the series with no Moon Knight powers at all.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yeah. I've seen this argument before, and I don't mind it. Like I said, the story is intriguing enough to me that I'm like just captivated. I like seeing the main Moon Knight character, kick some butt. But I'm still kind of intrigued into what's going on with his personalities and everything else that's going on. I think that last episode really had some really cool Indiana Jones vibes. And
I feel like they've really pulled from from kind of that whole genre, that subgenre there, because I feel like some of it felt very much like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy.
Mummy, yes, absolutely,
and definitely a lot of strong Indiana Jones vibes in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah. So I'm happy.
We didn't really. We mostly saw Tony Stark right in the first Iron Man movie. That's kind of par for the course for a lot of these, like becoming the superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, movies.
I get it. At some point, I guess, I don't know. I'm not minding it so far. Like, I do feel like by the finale, like in the finale, we need to see a fair amount of the suit. But I'm with Ro. Like, I'm enjoying this. I'm really just enjoying Oscar Isaac's acting in this with the playing the multiple characters. I love the hint that, there's a third personality. I don't know when we're going to meet the third personality. We've yet to meet that personality. We talked about that last week. Who do you think the third personality is? Ro, do you think
I don't know.
Well, what we talked about was it's either the other main personality from the comics, which is Jake Lockley, which is it now seems to be the case. That seems we're getting confirmation that there's a third personality separate from Khonshu. Last week we kind of asked the question: is the third personality Jake Lockley, or is it, or is that Khonshu fully taking control of the body? But now it seems we kind of got confirmation after Khonshu has been trapped in stone, imprisoned in stone in this last episode, that there's definitely the third. We see the third personality still in his sarcophagus in the mental hospital.
Right.
Right.
I love that sequence, that whole sequence. And then when you saw like familiar faces and characters that were in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
So we kind of had a split here. Like, what did you think about the first half of the episode before Mark gets shot? So
When
we
they
have a
were
lot
rolling around in the sand.
Yeah, well, we get the stuff in the sand, we get the stuff in the tomb, we get the kind of little horror elements with the priest that's still in there sacrificing people and mummifying people that are coming into the tomb. And
yeah, that's ugh.
I love that.
oh yeah, all that was really great.
Yeah.
And I even felt like they kind of made the priest, the way that they did the priest really gave strong Indiana Jones vibes.
Right.
Mhm.
And like you said, the mummy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of movements from that character that kind of mimicked some of the mummy's movements when
Right.
they were, you know, in that scene. So I really liked it. I enjoyed the you know, it kind of switched, like you said, into a little bit of a horror aspect, and I really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
It kind of kept me on my toes. The way they shot it too, when Layla is climbing, is that her name, Layla?
Layla.
Mhm.
When she's climbing through the rocks and the you know the camera kind of you know dollies into the crevice in between, and then you don't know
Mhm.
what's going on, and then the next one is when she gets pulled in. I mean, those
Right.
shots are really
Yeah.
really exciting and visually invigorating.
And I think they did a really good job, specifically since I'm watching it with my kids. Like, it's definitely creepy, but it's
Mhm.
also not gory. It's not, it
Right.
wasn't too violent.
Well, it kind of gives that, there's this idea that to do scary, you have to be rated R, and it's just not true.
Right.
Mhm.
Sure.
But
It's, you know,
uh,
most of the scary is in here. You know, you imagine things
Mhm.
a lot more, you know, a lot worse than you see them sometimes.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, how are you? So at this point, how are y'all feeling about the Layla character?
I think she's super fun. I'm really
Yeah,
enjoying her.
Yeah,
I think
I
she's
saw that
fine.
Joker said she's basically the Indiana Jones in this story. I
So
agree, but I
Yeah.
think she's I
Yeah.
really like, and I'm not the only one. I've seen this pointed out a couple of other places. She's very much Rachel Weisz's character.
oh
She
From the
yeah,
kind of
Mummy.
looks like her, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
a little bit too. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I think she's fun, and I think she balances Mark and Steven both in a really
Mhm.
different way.
Hmm.
Like, she's sort of the badass that Steven isn't, but she's also, you can really see how much influence who she is has had on the way that Mark kind of has, this personality that's
Yeah,
manifested, in Steven. You can really see um that he's sort of created sort of as a reflection of Layla in a lot of ways, I think.
yeah.
Okay.
And I thought it was hilarious that after they exchange that kiss, and then she goes down, he punches himself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what? You kissed her? Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love those little moments. I have one nitpick on this episode. So if y'all, is there anything that y'all didn't like about the episode? Anything that didn't work?
You know, it's weird because I think when I first started watching this episode, it was because they're so far apart, and then sometimes I don't get to them until like a few days after they release. So like sometimes I
Mhm.
forgot, and then I'm watching like so much. Um, I really, you know, once the series is done, I'm definitely going to go back and do a rewatch all through the whole thing because like it when they were after he got shot, I guess they were rolling around in the sand. I'm like, I'm trying to remember like what happened the last episode. Um,
Mhm.
that I mean, that's my only nitpick, only because that's my own fault. But I don't know if I have any real nitpicks. I mean, I do think of you mentioned the Star app. I do think of little moments like that, but I kind of just let
Mhm.
them go.
Well, that's kind of mine. Is it's a nitpick like that. It's really not important. It's something they would have done in Indiana Jones, frankly. When she throws the flare in the back of the truck and
Mhm.
it starts setting off bullets,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's not how bullets work. Like, you got to heat bullets
Right,
up a
right.
lot. You can
Yeah.
throw a bullet I mean, as somebody who shoots regularly, you can throw a bullet in a fire and you're going to have to wait a few minutes for it to go off. Like,
my favorite thing though was the kids are like, "What is that she's got?" And it just is a flare. They're like in Jurassic Park.
yeah.
Like that's my kid's entire reference for what a flare does.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like in Jurassic Park. Like, well, you know.
So I mean, did you have any favorite parts from the first half, or really first 2/3 of the episode?
I mean, you know me, I'm a history buff, so whenever he says Macedonian,
Mm.
you know,
yeah.
the nerd is going, who, you know, it's got to be Alexander, right? And so that's, you know, that's pretty. That I really thought that was an interesting. I really thought that was an interesting
Addition
direction for that story,
sure.
because they talked about how Amit's avatar had, you know, like turned on her. So that gives an interesting perspective, you know, one of the most successful generals in history, obviously in Alexander the Great. So you're left to wonder, is, you know, or is the story we're going with, is his success was as a result of having been Amit's avatar? And also, I mean, obviously he dies about the same time that little statue gets made. So, you know, you're also kind of left to wonder if that's what did him in, was, you know, turning on Amit is what actually destroyed him.
Yeah.
You know, in continuity. Because I mean, nobody actually knows exactly what happened to Alexander. He contracted some sort of strange illness.
Right.
Just died.
So when we're in the tomb, or what did y'all think about the scene where we see, I guess is it Osiris that we're seeing that's
Yeah.
that has, well, he has the what are the things called?
The
scarab?
No, the little statues. I can't remember what
okay.
they're called. I'm forgetting the term, but where he's got this whole wall of Egyptian gods imprisoned in stone.
I know, it's like they're pulling them back and you're going, damn, how many times have they done this? So
you're talking about the Parsec Awards.
Yes.
Yeah, the Parsec Awards.
Exactly.
Osiris had a lot of Parsec Awards.
He did. He was impressive.
Yeah, but that was cool.
Ushabdi. Thank you, Joker voice.
Yeah. So, you know, you're kind of left wondering, like, what exactly like went down that there are as many of these gods imprisoned in stone as there are actually still functioning through avatars.
And we're missing a lot of the more powerful Egyptian
gods.
Missing,
we haven't seen Horus, we haven't seen Amun, we haven't seen Ra, we haven't seen Set, we haven't seen like all of your most easily identifiable Egyptian gods. No gods. Isis.
Right.
No. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of really important ones.
And then I have to remember to differentiate my Greek gods from the Roman gods.
Right.
And but I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm not too familiar with the story, the lore. Has there been a god civil war happening? And maybe,
you know, in the comics, I'm like I said before, never been just a huge comic reader. And in this one in particular, I've never read a Moon Knight comic. And a lot of times before these shows come out, I kind of go digging and read a lot. But this one, because I knew nothing, I just decided to just watch it that way before I go digging deep and see what the comics are all about. You know, in the comics, I do know enough about the comics to know that we have a number of times in the Marvel comics where the different gods have had run-ins with each other. So, you know, it'll be interesting. We're really introducing a lot of gods across the board. We've already had the Asgardians. We introduced the Eternals, who are not gods per se, but they've been playing Greek gods and are different gods on Earth for a while. We're getting Zeus and Thor Love and Thunder, so we could get any number of additional Greek gods out of that. and where we're getting new. I mean, heck, we're going to talk here in a minute about they introduced an Egyptian god or Egyptian goddess who's never appeared in Marvel at all.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting as they add more and more of these gods into the MCU, how they choose to have that work. Like, you know, because all the different groups of gods kind of work differently in the comics. And it's like Stan Lee used to say, like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like you have these, you have these two things that you're putting together that don't necessarily mesh. Well, you just write around it. Like, you know, you just write something new. Like,
but we have seen evidence like the Asgardian gods seem to operate pretty differently than the Egyptian gods from what we've seen so far. So, I mean, they may kind of stick with that where they kind of have different, you know, modes or something, different ways of dealing with things.
Yeah.
The opportunity.
I think he's talking about for Hathor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about, we were commenting on it because we've been watching Stargate and we were just like, yes, Hathor, who is not a good guy in Stargate, but is apparently at least mostly a good guy here.
Right. Let's see. What else? Is there anything else from the first part of this episode that we need to talk about? I think most of the most interesting stuff. I mean, is there anything, Ro, that you have that you wanted to talk about from the first part of the episode?
No, again, you know, I was really glued at my seat during the creepy parts, you know.
Right, that was my favorite.
So sorry, Mr. the Great.
That's my favorite. I think that's my favorite part of the show so far is really the time that they spent in Alexander the Great's tomb.
Yeah. And you know, because he's like this big like archaeology buff, you know, like desecrating this mummy is like killing him. It's like, you know, one of those, it's one of those things. It's like, you don't unwrap the mummy, you know, that's like archaeology 101 at this point. So, you know, he's just like, you could tell it's like really hurting his feelings that he's having to go desecrating this, like one of the most important mummies ever. Right.
Right.
It hurt my feelings a little bit too. Not gonna lie.
All right. So it
belongs in a museum.
Right. Exactly. I wanted to talk a little bit about Joker Voice's comment regarding the knowledge that he has that Oscar Isaac is never going to sign with the MCU ever again, and we will never see Moon Knight. How did he come across this information?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I wouldn't be. I would be a little surprised if we see him in a lot of MCU movies. I don't know that he's necessarily looking to do. You know, I don't think he loved being committed to Star Wars for the rest of eternity. I don't know that he's really interested in doing that again. But you know,
he seems to be having a lot of fun with this series, and I think because of the two characters, even that final shot of both of them has you know, I was reading a little bit about how they did that technically, and you know, it was a difficult shot, but he seems to be having fun, and I think the audience reaction might dissuade him from leaving and maybe signing another standard 3-year.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, there's no telling. I mean, I know what Joker, I know what you're getting at, that Layla's going to end up wearing the suit by the end of the series, and they could very well go that way. I kind of want them to do. I mean, eventually, if they did that, I don't think I would care. I would kind of like to see comic book Moon Knight for a while before they decided to do that. But at this point, who really knows? And it may be. I'm curious to see over time how these TV contracts wind up comparing to the ones for the movie actors.
Mm-hmm.
In what way?
As far as like how long people sign for.
Oh, okay. And I would also like to know if the TV contracts and the film contracts differentiate between each other. Like I will only
Right.
do 1 year
Right.
of television or streaming, or if it's a all-encompassing contract, well, you've got to be in 3 projects, whether it's streaming or movies or whatever. So I'd like to know. Joker, can you get on that for us? Thanks.
Yes. Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah.
The
But no,
interesting thing though about there being TV series and movies going at the same time is potentially they could, instead of, like you have this one and then you have, 3 years later we'll have another movie, they could potentially boom, 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 like,
Sure.
okay, you're ours for the next year, and then they could move on.
yeah. Now, if they waive a movie contract under Oscar Isaac's nose to play this character on the big screen, he's not going to turn that down.
Sure.
But I guess the real thing is like, how long are they signing people for up front for these series? And I really don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah. So this is interesting. So my opinion, and let's just get into that. Let's talk about the psych ward. What do y'all think? Is everything that was happening before he wakes up in the psych ward real, or is the psych ward real? And I think there's a really easy answer to that. I think the psych ward is definitely not real. It's all in his head.
I think so.
Well, there's too many weird
agree.
things. The personalities all exist separately from one another.
And he finds two of his personalities, presumably, in a sarcophagus. That doesn't seem like something you'd find in a real psych ward.
Right.
Yeah.
Is an identical version of yourself.
So what do y'all think what do y'all think this place is though?
Mental purgatory.
I agree. I actually think it's some sort of purgatory.
Yeah. No, you're right. Not limbo. Limbo is the one before you're born. Purgatory.
So what do y'all think?
The fact that you see all the similar faces in there. I mean, he's pulling. I guess he's pulling from images that he knows, like maybe in the real world, to kind of reorganize himself. So, yeah, definitely the psych ward is not real.
Yeah. So I've seen different theories on it. Is it like, why is he here? The biggest theory I've seen that seems to make sense is that it's some sort of place of judgment.
Yeah, and everything is white.
Right.
We're getting there, Joker. We're getting there.
Yes, we're getting definitely to the talking hippo. But yeah, I think that it's either, I don't know if everyone goes to this, I think that probably because he's an avatar for one of the gods is why he winds up here. I don't think that they're going with like, this is just what happens when you die in the MCU, as much as this is what happened to him when he died.
Right.
Because he's particularly tied up with all these, otherworldly beings.
Right. And yeah, I think the very end of that, Joker asking about the talking hippo. So this is actually the goddess I was referring to a minute ago that has never appeared in any Marvel comic. It's not part of the Ennead, and that's Tawarit, one of the hippo goddesses, the goddess of childbirth and fertility. And largely later, and this is kind of where I think we're going, that this goddess later on, kind of in the what do we find, the Middle Kingdom
and
increasingly the new kingdom was largely a goddess of rejuvenation or rebirth.
They apparently started having like hippopotamus statues show up in the middle in the new kingdom in tombs, like to a large scale, and they think that it was probably a kind of a rebirth image that they've got, so she's the goddess of the first birth and of the second birth.
Yeah.
So getting back to something Marisha said earlier, she corrected herself and said that it's not limbo because that's something that happens before you're born. So having this knowledge now, maybe it is limbo, and this is a rebirth
That's
of
interesting.
his psyches, whatever they are, in whatever order. This is kind of like a pooling area of everything that he is,
Mhm.
and the hippo is going to be like, okay, you go, reborn.
Oh, that
Yeah.
could be a really interesting dynamic if we actually get. You mean we actually get, instead of just having these personalities in one person, we actually get different people? Is that what you're going with?
No, that
No, just yeah.
that's basically the personalities that are useful, or the parts of him that are good can be regenerated.
Yeah.
Right. And then he'll continue to live his life being able to switch, from time to time to whatever, almost like, I don't know if you guys saw Sense8, almost like the characters in Sense8, they were able to change bodies depending on what ability you needed. And it could go the same way here.
Um, I see where you're going, Nick. I think that to make that change and have everything from the entirety of the first 4 episodes not real in a 6 episode series would really kind of make a lot of people feel like they had gotten burned by this by spending the time watching those first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they won't do it, but I really don't think they're going. And I thought maybe could be some sort of reality to it until Tower It showed up.
Yeah.
And knowing what she is, because okay, so Tower It. Okay, so we have Amit, who is one of the hippo goddesses as well. Amit has the head of a crocodile, the feet of a hippo, and the like the body of a lion. Tower has the head of a hippo, the tail of a crocodile, and the body and the feet of a lion.
A feline, yeah.
She is literally, because of what she is, and that she's a goddess of rebirth, and Amit is a goddess of destruction. And they're literally physically and what they do, their roles as gods are the exact opposite of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Like so I really feel like
counterpoints in
once
some
we
ways.
have a goddess who's the literal opposite of Amit show up, that I think that we're really seeing that goddess. Now, I guess the question I have is this goddess one of the goddesses that's also trapped in stone? Are the gods and goddesses that are imprisoned in stone, is this where they are?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah. It could be purgatory or limbo.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really interesting.
Yeah. And only 2 episodes left, huh?
Only 2 episodes
only
left?
2. So,
and I think, they should be able to wrap things up. I mean, it's not like it's Mandalorian where the episodes are like 24 minutes.
Right.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to be doing. I think that we'll. And they definitely left in a weird place, but I don't see any problem getting it wrapped up by the end of the series.
Yeah. So where do y'all think they go next episode from here? I know Marisha thinks we're going to get the Moon Knight powers back early next episode, right?
I think so. I think that the Tawret, or however you pronounce her name, Tawret is going to basically send him back in, and she may even help them break out. What's his name? Khonshu.
I think that that's all very possible, but I think that because of that she's got to help them on this finish whatever, because we really didn't have a journey. I think that whatever's happening there is part of a journey, and that the most of this next episode is going to be that kind of mental journey through whatever kind of purgatory this place is. And that at the end, we're going to see him summon the suit. And then we really won't get the suit back really until the final episode. It's kind of where I think we're going.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
I think we have to have this kind of mental and emotional reconciliation.
You know, and you do bring up a good point, because at the point where they shoot Stephen,
it was Mark.
It was Mark. Was it Mark they shot? Either way, at the point where they shoot him, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now we have something else to do before, because I really thought that they were gonna, do whatever they did in this episode and then break. I really thought that the next episode would start with breaking out Khonshu, but I think you're right. I think they probably do have to finagle there a little bit, because now he's dead, or mostly dead.
What about you, Ro? Any thoughts on where they go from where we left off?
I think because we were introduced into this mental institution area, I do agree with your assessment that they have to kind of resolve something in both of their characters, Mark and Stephen. I think there's something there that he's lingering in there, and they're I think they're this close. The talking hippo might bring things over the edge there, with their realization of what is going on in their heads. But I think the next episode, they're going to deal with some emotional and character development that will almost, I guess, maybe tie his characters in a little bit more tight, in order for him to have the control that he needs to be able to end the series with a bang.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that that's what we get from Taweret, and I'm hoping that she is going to be the character that's going to fill us in on what exactly is going on with the gods.
Somebody's got
because we do have holes, and we have our main story, but then we do have these kind of other things that are hinted as to what's going on.
We kind of have some holes in our mythology at this point.
Yeah. So hopefully this episode is where we're going to fill in all those gaps before our final act.
Sure. I want to touch on something Joker's been saying for the last couple of minutes regarding having this series without the title character. And I think, obviously we've gone through that a little bit with the Book of Boba Fett. But for me, somehow it's a little different, and I don't know why. And I get Joker Voice's argument here. But I think I'm so intrigued at the story and everything's that's happening in this show, where I wasn't in the Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett seemed like they were throwing so many things up in the air to see what would stick. They were introducing a lot of plot devices and Chekhov's guns where you'd think they'd come back to it, but they never did. And it was frustrating as heck following that show. But something about this in particular is, to me anyways, is different. And I don't see a problem with not seeing, Moon Knight, or the white suit at least, for most of it, because I'm so intrigued at the mental anguish, the situational plot that is happening in this show. And I'm intrigued. I think I'm intrigued.
Well, and I think Mark is Moon Knight, like if Tony Stark is Iron Man, Mark is Moon Knight. So as long as we're seeing what's happening with Mark and Steven, I don't necessarily have to see the suit to feel like I'm seeing what's happening with the character, if that makes sense. Sure. I don't feel like Moon Knight, I don't feel like is not a different persona. Like if we didn't see Mark at all in the series, I would start to feel like, okay, so like this is, but since Moon Knight isn't his own persona, since he's just basically, it's just the suit, I don't think it necessarily bothers me.
Yeah.
As much as like, okay, why are we not seeing Boba Fett in the Boba Fett show?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know what it is for me specifically, but I tend to agree. And Joker Voice put another thing is the Book of Boba Fett. We were trusting Robert Rodriguez too much. Yes and no. I think I don't know, whoever was directing it, and really, I didn't go in saying, "Oh, cool, Robert Rodriguez." I went in thinking, "Oh, cool, a Star Wars show with Boba Fett," which it was just like totally not that for me.
Right.
Um, but again, maybe it has to do with the fact that I'm really not familiar with Moon Knight as a character.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm
And
at
at some
too.
point, yeah, and at some point, I don't even care if we see Moon Knight at all, because the internal workings of Mark Steven, to me, is so interesting. The
Mhm.
dynamic between the two are so interesting, and obviously, as Oscar Isaac's performances really carrying the show for me.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
same. And I do think we're going to see the suit. I think you build it as seeing the suit. I think we're going to see I think we're going to get a heavy dose of the suit in the final episode.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think we'll see it all unless it's at the very end of next episode. But I do think we'll get a heavy dose of it at the end, and I'm really curious to see where they go with this show. But I do feel like the Marvel stories across the board in the TV show format have been more personal stories and a lot
Sure.
less about superheroing.
Absolutely. And I think people need to understand that. I think, people obviously are expecting the capes and leotards, but I really love the fact that we're spending time with the humanity of it all.
Right.
Especially in the series, which obviously allows you to kind of spend some time in that area.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, is there anything anybody else wanted to touch on before we wrap up for the night?
I don't think so. I think
Um, I did want to say something else. I think I know we give Joker Voice a lot of crap for his thoughts there, but they were very helpful today in kind
Yeah.
of trying to move some things along here.
No, we don't. We don't. We definitely don't mind the alternate opinions in the chat.
no, it's always more interesting if you have kind of different points of view. It makes things a little more interesting because echo chambers are only so much fun
Right.
ultimately.
Hey, Alan's in the chat.
Hey,
Hello
Alan.
and
Hey,
and
hey.
welcome. We won't be here much longer,
No,
but
we won't. But it's good to
um,
see you for a second.
Yeah.
all right. Well, anything else?
I don't think so. I'm really just excited to see what I'm enjoying the series so far. And so
This is definitely true.
oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Mhm.
Which does make one wonder exactly, I mean, why they decided to do this show that's
I think we've got some others coming that are going to be the same. I mean,
yeah,
we can only do so many series that are introducing
Young Avengers.
Young Avengers. I mean, they're pretty much all in place now.
Yeah.
So I think we're
Yeah.
probably done with that. I think the next few shows that come out, don't think we'll see much of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. So I think somebody had mentioned on another show. Are we thinking that the events in Moon Knight happened in the prime timeline? I guess because there has been no mention of the incident in New York or anything that happens on the Avengers. We don't get mention of the blip. Somebody had mentioned just I guess off the top of their head that maybe this is uh, another multiverse.
Hmm.
I think it's possible that they're doing that, but I kind of hope they're not.
Yeah,
Mhm.
me too. That just
I think that
too
it's
convoluted.
I think more than anything, it's that they're just ready to move away from
Sure.
the events of the first three phases and start focusing on
What comes
what's
next?
coming next.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think it's like because there are a lot of people that are concerned about where Marvel goes after the finale of phase three, which is one of the biggest movie events ever.
Mhm.
And where do you go from that? And so I think that this is more them just kind of quitting looking back as much and starting to
Mhm.
look forward more.
Yeah, and
Plus,
mean,
I
you
think these are going to have less to do. I don't think we're ever going to see Moon Knight in an Avengers film.
Mhm.
I think we're going to do Midnight Suns, some stuff like
Or-
that with Dark Avengers. Some stories like that where we're going to
see
where
other team ups.
they're just going to be less concerned with the events of the other the
Mhm.
Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you can only spend so much time in TV shows and movies being like, the blip was traumatic.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's a thing about being people. You know, eventually you have to talk about something besides, like, doesn't COVID suck? Like, wasn't that horrible? Like, yeah, it really was. It was really, we're all, you know,
Sure. Yeah. You
we're
just
all
have to move
tired of,
on.
you just,
Yeah.
you know, at some point you have to
Move
tell
on.
stories about something else. And we've
Mhm.
told a couple of stories about the blip really messed things up.
Yeah.
Sure.
know.
Well, and Alan points this out, and yes, that logo is in a couple of places for the GRC.
Mhm.
Is kind of scattered around a few places, which is
Yeah.
the governing body that's
Yeah.
Global Relocation Council or something that
Mhm.
Right.
so you know that logo has appeared a couple of times in this show.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. Good to know.
Cool. So anything else?
I like creepy mummies.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, so
We could have
creepy. It's
done. We could
not-
have do a whole show about creepy mummies, and I'd be down.
Nope, I'm not watching that show. I don't like creepy. Like my tolerance for the creepy factor is about that long.
No, but I would be all kinds of down for a show that was basically kind of Indiana Jones, the Mummy, that kind
Mhm.
of flavor. Like I'd be all kind of down for a show like
Sure.
that.
Okay. Yeah, as long as it's not like zombies. I don't want to watch a zombie.
Well,
movie.
no, and more serialized adventure.
Yeah.
The Great Adventures of Howard Carter.
Yeah. That's it. That's what we're going for.
All right, guys. Well, thank you to everybody that joined us in the chat and helped us have a conversation about Moon Knight episode 4. And we will be back. I'm not sure. I don't guess we will be here to talk next week. I guess we'll have to do next week's episode on either Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, because we're going on vacation.
Woohoo!
So we will be
First
out of
time in
town
living
next Friday.
memory.
So we will not be live. I do have a couple episodes dropping throughout the week this coming week that are going to be pre-scheduled. So they should drop early morning a couple different days this week. And anything else?
I
don't
think that's
so.
it.
Episode 100. It's going to be 2 weeks before that one drops, but it is coming.
Very nice.
We recorded that one last night, and very excited about it.
Congratulations
Ro,
on that.
Yeah, Ro, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
not a
I
problem.
appreciate it.
It's always fun hanging out with you guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, real quick before we wrap up, let everybody know where to find you and the Scare Scuttlebutt podcast.
Sure. The Scare of Scuttlebutt podcast can be found anywhere you download your other favorite podcasts. I'm getting my computer back in the next day or so. We've got 2 shows that are waiting to be edited. I spoke with DJ from Rogue One Radio. We talked about favorite Star Wars space battles, so that should be a good one. And then there's another one that we did with our friend Pixie Weirdo. I can't remember the rest of her name, but we talked about masks and the masks that we wear. Not only sci-fi masks, Kylo and Vader, but the masks that we wear. Not unlike Mark and Steven. So that should be a lot of fun, and really excited to drop those 2 episodes.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Marisha, real quick, let everybody know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Instagram. I am princesses_and_Padawans.
Cool. And you ought to start posting some stuff pretty soon because I'm sure you've got a pile of Dragon Con costumes you're going to be starting to make when we get back from vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be my next thing. That's what I'm going to do if I can't find another movie to go on. I'll just sit and stress. So
Nice.
All right. And you can find me running the Twitter account for this show at sci_fictionary. You can check out our weekly podcast, the Science Fictionary Podcast, anywhere that you listen. Thank you again for joining us in the chat live tonight. And is there anything else that I need to mention before we wrap up? I don't think so. So as always, be sure to check out our podcast and the rest of the Red 5 Podcast Network at Red 5 Network on Twitter. Yeah. Check out that pinned tweet at the top, and then check out that bio link.
Yep. See, helpful little over there. You can see a little emblem.
So you check out that bio link there. You can find a link to all of the Red 5 podcasts, and there are a lot of them, and there is something wonderful there for everyone to listen to.
How about our new gaming initiative, Red 5 Gaming on Twitch?
I'm excited to do some of that. I'm gonna have to kind of work on my setup a little bit when I get back from this trip. But
oh no, you're gonna have to buy more gaming equipment. That's
no, I have almost everything. You just need a capture card.
Okay.
But 97 Bravo has been spearheading the Red 5 Gaming Twitch activities. So if you guys are into gaming, head over to twitch.tv/Red5 Network Gaming and give them a follow over there. All sorts of fun stuff.
Yep. Sweet. All right, guys. Thanks again.
Yeah. Another shout out to the chat. Thanks, guys. Y'all kept it interesting up in here.
All right, guys. Until next time, may the force be with you.
This podcast is part of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts, visit red5network.com.